What is up, BookTube? It is Monty, and today I'm here to talk about Malibu Rising, which is the newest release by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I'm pre-filming this, so I don't know if it is already out or if it's about to come out. I don't know when I'm gonna have this go up in the rotation, but I will say that I did enjoy this book. So if you don't know, Malibu Rising is the story of Mick Rivas, who was one of Evelyn Hugo's husbands. They weren't married for very long. He was the one that was like, I think they got married in Vegas, and it was very early on in her career. It was like the 60s, was it the 67? Yes, because this takes place in the 80s. So it had to be like the 60s. Early, one of the first husbands. She was in a more, like, she was above him in terms of fame and status and things. So he was just a no good person, as we find out in this event. So we follow the four Rivas siblings. What are their names? I don't know why I want to say Nora, but I know it's not fucking Nora, is it? It's like Kit, Catherine, Kit, Hudson, Jay. I want to say Nora. Maybe it is Nora. It's just, I'm going to go with Nora. If it's not her name, I'm going to be very embarrassed. So we're following them. And so the book is kind of split into two timelines. We have the Mick and their mother, June. We see their marriage and how that ultimately falls apart because, again, Mick Rivas is a cheater. He is a person who is constantly chasing fame. And so, like, he thought he could settle down and be, the father person. Eventually, we just see June as a single mother who is constantly, like, just, I wouldn't say constantly, but there is a part of June that wants Mick to come back and, like, believes that Mick will come back, and it's kind of a little bit heartbreaking. There are some reviewers who think that this is just, like, the worst storyline for a female character to ever have. And if it was, like, the only female character in the book and she was this person who was, like, hung up on her husband coming back, I could understand that. But I think that June is a character that, yes, wants her husband to come back, but also does take care of her children. Like, she very clearly moves to do the best she can with the hand that she's dealt. We also, again saw her, I think it was Hudson. Hudson was not June's biological child. So Mick, the first time we saw him cheat was his co-star showed up at June's house and was like, I can't do this. And so she gives June this child that she and Mick had, and she just, like, drops on the door, she runs away. And I thought it told me everything that I need to know about June as a person, who she just was going to do what she needed to do to take care of these children. And she was not a perfect person. A lot of the storyline later on in the book details her abuse of alcohol and how she kind of becomes absent and how Nora is forced to step in. And I thought that was a really interesting storyline. It does include, I wouldn't call it, like, graphic, but it is a semi-detailed account of Nora finding her mother. No longer alive. I hesitate to call it a suicide because it was very clearly not something that was planned. It was definitely accidental. But it is a scene in the book. It does happen, and so I would warn people going in. And then so we have the Mick and June storyline and the children growing up, and then in the other timeline, it is a count up. Is it a countdown? Like, we are the events leading up to this epic party and this fire that we know is going to happen. Like, it's going to be a very massive wildfire. It's going to destroy properties, and it's an infamous fire in the world of this, pseudo-celebrity, pseudo-historical, thing that Taylor Jenkins Reid has created with Daisy Jones and Seven Husbands. And so that storyline, I thought, was almost the weaker of the two. There's still a lot of interpersonal drama and family relationship things that is getting worked out and worked through in that storyline that I thought was kind of well done. That kind of, it had a lot to say. Did it say a lot of that very well? I don't know. I didn't care about all of the siblings equally. So that did kind of hinder it. And we also knew that there was going to be a fire. And so when we finally got to how the fire was set, it wasn't the greatest, but I felt that it made sense in the sort of larger scale of what Taylor had been doing for most of the book. My biggest complaint with Malibu Rising isn't that it's bad, because I did enjoy it more than Seven Husbands, but less than Daisy Jones, is I think that this book is going to be incredibly divisive, which is 2 for 2 now of books I've read recently and reviewed on the channel. But I think that it's not quite as focused as Daisy Jones or Seven Husbands. Like, you go into both of those knowing you're going to get Daisy's life story, how she came to the Six, why the Six and her split ways creatively, and how they made this, you know, this collaboration album that was a big thing, right? You go into Evelyn Hugo, and you know you're going to get the life and times of Evelyn Hugo. Malibu Rising kind of splits the difference between that house fire situation and a family saga. And while I enjoyed it, it definitely read to me like a pitch for a television show. It was, you know, kind of a Big Little Lies-esque, and I don't like it. And I think that what didn't work for me the most of the idea of this being a pitch for a TV show or a movie is that the other 2 books in the, well, it's only connected to Seven Husbands. In my head, I think one of Evelyn Husbands was in Daisy Jones, though, so I think they are actually all connected. But this character is only from Seven Husbands. But the idea is that there are on 2, like, the adaptation for those projects are on different platforms. Seven Husbands went to Freeform, which I think is the ultimate shade and still makes me cackle. And then Daisy Jones is on Amazon Prime. So the idea that we could then have an adaptation of this kind of like small-scale cinematic universe on just 3 different platforms, or on very minimum maybe 2 different platforms, it's just weird to me. I don't like the idea of that, and I don't understand why you would write a book that essentially... It just feels like we're going to continue this world, and I don't know. But again, I did enjoy it more than Seven Husbands, because at least it wasn't like the way the book played out didn't require racism at the center of it. So like for me, when Taylor Jenkins Reid just doesn't try to tackle racism in a book, I'm going to enjoy it more than when she does try to tackle racism. That's just a me preference. I fully understand that. But for other people, I think that it is going to be a real big problem that the book is so split in how it doesn't have a clear aim, it doesn't have a clear goal, especially seeing as I don't call them companions, but the spiritual sibling books both have very clear focuses, and this one is more meandering in a way. But the journey I went on, like the little, you know, stroll through the mountains that I went on reading this, was really interesting. I thought all the siblings, again, they weren't my favorite, but I did think they were distinct, and they felt like siblings. They fought like siblings, but they were still very much there for for each other in the way that a lot of people want siblings to be in books. So it's a coin toss whether or not people are going to like this. I wound up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. I don't know if I would rank it above Daisy. I still think Daisy is like 4.2, maybe. I don't know. It's not something I have to think about right now, but I do recommend it. But I would just go in knowing that it is, to me, Daisy was divisive because of the formatting. But I think that this is also going to be divisive, but it's more just in the content. Like, the general content will be what's dividing audiences here, and not the format. So, I don't know. I am still interested to see what Taylor Jenkins Reid comes up with next. It's usually around like every 2 years, it seems now, that we get a new book from them. So 2023, I'm going to be looking, seeing if we're going to... I'm also interested to see if they decide to stay in this historical lane that they've created for themselves, or if, because other people are also kind of doing this pseudo-historical situation, if they're going to try and like revamp again. So I'm going to keep an eye out for sure. But, like I said, 4 out of 5 stars. Coming to the end of the video. I'm going to try and find a surfboat emoji that I can put here, because their family is surfers. That was like, we got that origin story for them. I thought that was cute. So, but I'm actually going to go now. I'll see you guys again soon in another video, whenever that happens to be. But until then, and until next time.